Professor Lee Min-young studied battlefield recordings from her research station on Titan, documenting how humans had revolutionized space combat in a single devastating engagement. The academic had predicted this outcome years ago, but even she was amazed by the efficiency of humanity's victory. What impressed her most was not the advanced weapons or brilliant tactics, but how humans had turned their supposed disadvantages into devastating strengths. The human fleet had looked primitive and outdated compared to sleek alien vessels, but that appearance was carefully designed to deceive enemies. Every human ship was built to keep fighting even when critically damaged, while alien vessels were designed for perfect conditions that rarely existed in real combat. Human engineering focused on survivability over beauty. Technician Park Kyung-ho worked to repair the few human ships that had sustained damage during the battle. The maintenance crews were shocked to discover that vessels which should have been destroyed were still fighting effectively. Human ships were designed with redundant systems, backup power sources, and modular components that could be replaced in the middle of combat. The human military philosophy was completely different from alien thinking. Instead of building perfect weapons that worked flawlessly under ideal conditions, humans built imperfect weapons that kept working when everything went wrong. Their ships were ugly, but they were also nearly indestructible when crewed by people who refused to give up. Commander Ru Hyojin continued interrogating captured Vorthok officers, trying to understand how an entire galactic empire could make such massive strategic errors. What she learned was that the aliens had become victims of their own success. They had conquered so many weak civilizations that they forgot how to fight determined enemies. The Vorthok military had not faced serious resistance in over a century, and their tactics had become stale and predictable. They fought by the book, using formations and strategies that had worked against other species but were useless against humans, who threw out the rule book and improvised solutions to every problem. Dr. Kim therein analyzed samples of alien technology and made discoveries that explained how the Vorthok had conquered so much of the galaxy. Their weapons were incredibly advanced and their ships were marvels of engineering, but they were also mass-produced and standardized. Every alien weapon worked exactly the same way, making them predictable. Human weapons were crude by comparison, but they were also unique and constantly evolving. Human engineers were always asking, how can we make this better, or what happens if we modify this component? The result was weapons that surprised even their creators with new capabilities discovered during combat. Captain Lee Jae-sung commanded a salvage operation recovering alien technology from the battlefield. His teams were finding things that would advance human science by decades, but they were also discovering weaknesses in alien design that could be exploited in future battles. The Vorthok had built their entire military around the assumption that their enemies would fight fair. Human forces did not fight fair. They fought to win, using every advantage they could find or create. They used the enemy's own technology against them, turned their strengths into weaknesses, and found creative solutions to problems that alien military doctrine said were impossible to solve. Navigator Song Mi-young continued plotting courses for human pursuit fleets that were chasing Vorthok survivors across the galaxy. The hunt was not just about destroying enemy ships, it was about sending a message to every civilization in known space. Humans were no longer the isolated species that could be safely ignored or threatened. The pursuit fleets carried more than just weapons. They carried human culture and technology that would be shared with any species willing to stand up against bullies like the Vorthok. The galaxy was about to learn that humans made better allies than enemies. Dr. Shin Jae-ho worked on understanding the long-term implications of humanity's victory. The battle had lasted only hours, but its effects would be felt for generations. The Vorthok Empire was collapsing as subject species rebelled against their weakened masters, while other aggressive civilizations reconsidered their expansion plans. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight from a situation where might made right to one where creativity and determination were more important than raw strength. Humans had proven that advanced technology meant nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. Engineer Yoon Tae-min studied the performance data from human weapons during the battle and was amazed by how well untested experimental systems had performed under combat conditions. The gravity weapons had exceeded all expectations, while the reality warping fields had created effects that their designers had only dreamed about. Human innovation was not just about building new weapons. It was about constantly improving existing ones and finding new ways to use them. The aliens had stopped innovating centuries ago, believing their technology was already perfect, but humans never stopped asking, what if we tried? This Major Kim the Jin debriefed her fighter pilots after the battle and learned that their cybernetic enhancements had performed even better than expected. The pilots had been able to perform maneuvers that should have been physically impossible while maintaining perfect accuracy with their weapon systems. The human approach to warfare was fundamentally different from alien thinking. Instead of trying to build perfect soldiers who never made mistakes, humans built adaptable warriors who could improvise solutions to any problem. The pilots had not just followed their training, they had invented new tactics during the battle. Intelligence Officer Da Hyan compiled reports about the changing situation throughout the galaxy. As news of the Vorthak defeat spread, other alien civilizations were reassessing their relationships with both humans and each other. The species that had seemed so weak and harmless had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force in known space. The galaxy was entering a new era where the old rules no longer applied. Humans had proven that warnings should be taken seriously and that underestimating your enemies was a fatal mistake. The price of arrogance had been paid in full, and every civilization in the galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about the consequences of threatening Earth. 6 months after the failed invasion, Ambassador Ko Hyunwoo sat in the neutral space station that served as the galaxy's diplomatic center, facing a delegation of alien representatives who looked at him with expressions he had never seen before. The mixture of fear and respect in their eyes was something that had not existed before the Vorthak defeat. Humanity's reputation had changed completely overnight, from insignificant newcomers who could be safely ignored to the species that had humiliated the galaxy's most feared empire in a single devastating battle. The other civilizations were scrambling to understand what this meant for the future of galactic politics. The alien delegates spoke carefully, choosing their words with precision that had not been necessary when they thought humans were weak and helpless. They asked questions about human intentions and capabilities while trying not to sound too frightened of the species that had just rewritten the rules of warfare. Ambassador Ko answered their questions honestly, explaining that humans had no desire to conquer other civilizations, but would respond to any threats with overwhelming force. The message was simple and clear. Humans wanted to be left alone, but they were perfectly capable of defending themselves and their allies. General Imdarin reviewed intelligence reports about the changing balance of power throughout known space from her office in the Pentagon. The Vorthak Empire was collapsing as subject species rebelled against their weakened masters, while other aggressive civilizations were reconsidering their expansion plans entirely. The galaxy was learning that there was a significant difference between a species that could not fight and one that chose not to fight until they were threatened. Humans had spent decades appearing weak and peaceful while secretly preparing for the day when someone would force them to reveal their true capabilities. The ripple effects of the battle was spreading across thousands of star systems as civilizations that had lived in fear of the Vorthak suddenly found themselves free. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were rising up against their oppressors, while others were forming new alliances for mutual protection. Admiral Park Hae-jin stood calmly on her command deck, watching reports pour in from across the solar system as the Vorthak fleet crumbled under the human assault. The alien invaders were in full retreat, but humanity was not going to let them escape easily. She had spent 30 years studying alien invasion patterns and knew that showing mercy to retreating enemies only ensured they would return with reinforcements. The price of ignoring humanity's warning was going to be paid in full with interest added for the arrogance the aliens had shown. Human forces throughout the solar system were tracking every fleeing ship, marking them for destruction by weapons that could follow them anywhere in the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that threatening Earth came with consequences that lasted forever. Captain Moon Sang-ho piloted his hunter-killer ship through fields of wreckage that had once been proud alien warships. His vessel was designed specifically for pursuit, equipped with engines that could track enemies through hyperspace itself and weapons that could strike targets across impossible distances. The aliens were discovering there was nowhere to run when humans decided to finish a fight the hunter-killer. Ships moved like mechanical predators through space, following the electromagnetic signatures of fleeing alien vessels their sensors could detect. Enemy ships hiding behind planets or trying to blend in with asteroid fields while they're targeting. Systems could calculate firing solutions for weapons that bent space and time. Lieutenant Kim Woo-bin worked at his intelligence station processing data from captured alien computers and learning things that made his blood run cold. The Vorthak Empire had files on every species they had conquered, including detailed psychological profiles and weakness analyses, but their information about humans was so wrong it was almost funny. If it was not so terrifying, the aliens had concluded that humans were weak pacifists who avoided conflict and surrendered when faced with superior force. They had no idea they were attacking a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history fighting wars against themselves and everything else that moved. Humans did not just fight when threatened, they had turned warfare into an art form. Colonel Bay Sujin commanded Marine boarding parties throughout the solar system as her soldiers captured alien vessels that had been crippled by human weapons. The Vorthak had expected human troops to be fragile creatures, dependent on technology, but they discovered that human warriors were adaptable beyond their worst nightmares. The human Marines fought with weapons when they had them, fought with tools when weapons ran out, and fought with their bare hands when everything else failed. They moved through alien ships like unstoppable forces of nature, tearing through bulkheads and surviving in conditions that should have killed them. The captured Vorthak officers spoke in whispers about demons in human form. Major General Lim Kyung-soo coordinated the systematic destruction of fleeing alien forces from his command center on Luna. His screens showed the positions of every Vorthak ship in the solar system along with the human forces hunting them down. The aliens had brought enough firepower to destroy planets, but they were being picked apart by enemies they had dismissed as primitive. The human military had turned the entire solar system into a killing field with weapons platforms hidden on asteroids, moons, and even inside the sun itself. Every possible escape route had been anticipated and covered by overlapping fields of fire that could reach targets anywhere in known space. The Vorthak were trapped in a maze with no exit. Dr. Park Ji-ho analyzed the wreckage of alien ships and made discoveries that changed everything humans thought they knew about galactic civilization. The Vorthak technology was advanced, but it was also standardized and predictable. They had grown so accustomed to easy victories that they had stopped innovating or adapting to new threats. The alien weapons were powerful but inflexible, designed to work against conventional defenses that followed predictable patterns. Human weapons were crude by comparison, but they were also creative, unpredictable, and constantly evolving. Every human weapon was designed by someone who asked, "What if we tried this?" and then built it to find out. Navigator Song Myung plotted courses for human ships pursuing fleeing Vorthak vessels beyond the solar system. The chase would continue for months, possibly years, as humanity demonstrated the consequences of threatening Earth. But this was not about revenge or conquest, it was about education. The galaxy needed to learn that humans were not just another species to be pushed around. The human pursuit fleets were equipped with everything they needed for extended operations, including mobile shipyards that could build new weapons while chasing enemies across the galaxy. They were not just hunting down individual ships, they were tracking the entire Vorthak military structure and dismantling it piece by piece. Commander Ru Hyo-jin interrogated captured Vorthak officers, trying to understand their strategic thinking. What she learned disturbed her more than any weapon could. The aliens were not evil conquerors driven by hatred or desperation. They were simply bullies who had grown accustomed to easy victories against unprepared enemies. The Vorthak military doctrine was based entirely on intimidation and overwhelming force concepts that were useless against humans who refused to be intimidated. Their entire empire was built on the fear they inspired in other species, but fear meant nothing to humans who had been fighting each other for thousands of years. Dr. Oh Taekyung studied the psychological profiles of captured Vorthak soldiers and found the key to humanity's victory. The aliens fought with discipline and technology, But humans fought with something far more dangerous: imagination. Every human weapon, every tactic, every strategy was born from someone asking, what if we tried this? The Vorthak could copy human technology, given enough time, but they could not copy the creative madness that made humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. When they were properly motivated, human innovation was not just about building better weapons, it was about thinking of new ways to use existing tools. Captain Eugenia commanded one of the pursuit fleets heading beyond the solar system to hunt down escaping Vorthak ships. Her mission was to ensure that no alien vessel survived to report back to their empire about human capabilities. The galaxy was going to learn about human military power through rumors and fear, not detailed intelligence reports. The pursuit would be relentless and thorough, with human ships following their prey across light years of space. If necessary, the message being sent was simple and clear: threatening. Earth came with a price that would be collected no matter how far the enemy ran or how long it took to find them. The Vorthak Empire had made the mistake of ignoring a human warning, and now they were learning what that mistake cost. The price was not just the destruction of their invasion fleet, it was the complete collapse of their reputation as unbeatable conquerors. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were not the weak prey species they appeared to be. The first quantum mines exploded in silent flashes of deadly light throughout the Vorthak fleet. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hae-won watched from her control station as hundreds of alien ships suddenly went dark, their energy systems failing and cascading waves of destruction. The mines did not just damage the ships, they created technological plagues that spread from vessel to vessel like a deadly virus. Commander Vextar felt his flagship shudder as the quantum disruption fields tore through his fleet's defenses. The massive alien warship groaned and twisted as its shields collapsed like soap bubbles bursting in the wind. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the bridge while his officers shouted reports about system failures across the entire fleet. The reptilian commander could not understand how primitive humans were causing such devastation. Dr. Kim So-young activated her quantum disruption generators from deep beneath the surface of Mars and watched with satisfaction as the alien shields began failing throughout their fleet. The silver towers hummed with deadly energy, sending invisible waves of destruction across millions of miles of space. The Vorthak had never encountered weapons that attacked the basic structure of matter itself. The alien ships that moments before had seemed invincible were now floating helplessly in space like broken toys. Their crews were trapped inside metal coffins, unable to move or fight, while human forces prepared to finish what the mines had started. The Vorthak were learning that their advanced technology meant nothing when humans found ways to turn it against them. Engineer Yun Taemin stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought as the ship's gravity weapons came online. The massive vessel looked ancient and primitive compared to sleek alien warships, but appearances had been carefully designed to deceive enemies. The ship's main guns did not fire projectiles or energy beams. Instead, they launched concentrated gravity wells that could crush matter at the atomic level. When the gravity weapons fired, they created invisible fists of crushing force that reached across space to grab alien ships and squeeze them until their hulls buckled and collapsed. The Vorthak had shields that could stop energy weapons and armor that could deflect missiles, but they had no defense against weapons that used gravity itself. As Ammunition Major Kim The-jin led her fighter squadron in a seemingly impossible attack against the alien capital ships, the human pilots flew their small craft in patterns that should have torn them apart from the forces involved, but their cybernetic implants allowed them to survive accelerations that would kill normal people. The enhanced pilots danced through alien formations like deadly angels, leaving destruction in their wake. The Vorthak fighter pilots laughed when they saw the primitive human craft approaching them, but their laughter died when those fighters began performing maneuvers that violated the basic laws of physics. Human pilots did not just fly their ships, they became one with them, using neural interfaces that connected their minds directly to the flight controls. Lieutenant Park Seung-min dove his fighter between two massive alien battleships, using their own weapons fire as cover while he targeted their shield generators. The young pilot pulled turns that created forces equal to being hit by a speeding truck, but his enhanced body absorbed the punishment, while his mind calculated firing solutions with computer precision. Dr. Shinjeho initiated the second phase of humanity's defense from his command center buried inside the moon. The mild-mannered physicist had spent his career developing theoretical weapons, and now those theories became terrifying reality warping fields began opening throughout the alien fleet, creating zones where the normal laws of physics simply stopped working. Alien ships found themselves aging centuries in seconds. As time moved at different rates around them, some vessels experienced gravity that pulled in impossible directions, while others discovered that their metal hulls had suddenly become liquid. The Vorthak crew members watched in horror as their perfect technology became useless against weapons that attacked reality itself. Captain Moon Sang-ho piloted his hunter-killer ship through the wreckage of what had once been the most feared battle group in the Vorthak fleet. His vessel was designed for pursuit, equipped with engines that could follow fleeing enemies through hyperspace itself. The humans were demonstrating that there was nowhere to run when they decided to finish a fight. The hunter-killer ships looked like mechanical sharks cutting through space as they tracked down every fleeing alien vessel. Their sensors could detect enemy ships trying to hide behind asteroids or planets, while their weapons could reach targets millions of miles away. The Vorthak were learning that running from humans only delayed the inevitable. Colonel Baisujin led Marine boarding parties that were capturing alien vessels throughout the solar system. The Vorthak had expected human soldiers to be weak creatures dependent on technology, but they discovered that human warriors were terrifyingly adaptable. The Marines fought with weapons with their bare hands, and with a ferocity that shook even veteran alien soldiers. The human Marines moved through alien ships like unstoppable forces of nature, their power armor allowing them to tear through bulkheads and survive in the vacuum of space. They fought in 3 dimensions, using magnetic boots to walk on walls and ceilings, while their enemies struggled to adapt to zero-gravity. Combat technician Kim Woo-bin processed intelligence data streaming in from captured alien computers. What he found was both satisfying and terrifying. The Vorthak Empire had detailed files on dozens of species they had conquered, but their information about humans was laughably incomplete. They had mistaken human restraint for weakness and diplomatic attempts for cowardice. The most shocking discovery was that humanity's warning had been transmitted to 17 different Vorthak fleets simultaneously. This was not a single invasion force attacking Earth. It was a coordinated assault on multiple human colonies, each one met with the same devastating response. The aliens had no idea they were fighting a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of warfare. Commander Vextar watched his perfect fleet dissolve into chaos and could not understand how primitive humans were accomplishing the impossible. His species had mastered conventional warfare, but humans fought with creativity, an innovation that bordered on pure insanity. They turned asteroids into kinetic weapons, used the sun's gravity as a slingshot for projectiles, and somehow made their weakest ships deadlier than Vorthak dreadnoughts. The reptilian commander began to realize that humanity's warning had not been empty bravado. They had been trying to save Vorthak lives by giving them a chance to leave peacefully. Now it was too late, and the price of ignoring human warnings was being paid in blood and broken dreams scattered across the darkness of space. The Vorthak fleet moved through space like a dark storm cloud, heading straight for Earth. Commander Vextar stood on his command bridge, feeling proud and confident as his ships advanced in perfect formation. He had conquered 17 different worlds and destroyed countless civilizations, but none of them had ever given him a warning like the humans did. The reptilian commander thought it was amusing that such weak creatures would dare to threaten his mighty empire. Captain Lee Dong-wook crouched inside his stealth ship, hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon, watching the enemy fleet pass by on his sensors. His ship was completely invisible to alien technology, using advanced cloaking systems that bent light and energy around the hull like water flowing around a rock. The young captain had been waiting for 3 days, without moving, eating cold rations and breathing recycled air, but now the moment had finally arrived. The alien fleet looked impressive from a distance, with their massive warships glowing with deadly energy and their shields shimmering like soap bubbles in space. But Captain Lee knew something that Commander Vexstar did not know. Every one of those alien ships was flying directly into a carefully prepared trap that had taken humans 20 years to set up perfectly. Dr. Kim So-young worked frantically in her secret laboratory buried deep beneath the red soil of Mars. Her fingers flew across the control panels as she made final adjustments to the quantum disruption field generators. These strange devices looked like silver towers covered in glowing crystals, but they contained technology that could tear holes in the fabric of space itself. The brilliant scientist had discovered that Vorthic shields had one critical weakness that the aliens had never bothered to fix. The weakness was simple but deadly. Vorthic energy shields were designed to stop physical objects and energy beams, but they could not handle quantum disruption fields that attacked the basic structure of matter itself. When these fields activated, they would cause the alien shields to collapse like popping balloons, leaving the ships completely defenseless against human weapons. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hae-won sat in the control room of a mining station on Ceres, monitoring the positions of thousands of quantum mines that had been drifting through space for months. These invisible weapons were smaller than footballs, but each one contained enough destructive power to cripple a Vorthic battleship. The mines had been placed along every possible invasion route using careful calculations of orbital mechanics and alien psychology. The quantum mines were not just weapons. They were the opening move in a chess game that humans had been planning for decades. Each mine was programmed to activate at precisely the right moment, creating a cascade effect that would spread through the alien fleet like a deadly virus. The Vorthic would find their advanced technology turned against them in ways they had never imagined possible. Sergeant Park Jin-woo checked his power armor systems one final time as he watched the alien fleet approaching through his tactical display. The massive suit made him 3 times stronger and twice as fast as a normal human, while protecting him from the vacuum of space and enemy weapons. He was stationed on Europa with 2,000 other Marines, ready to fight if the space battle somehow went wrong. The power armor was not just protection. It was a weapon system that turned ordinary humans into walking tanks. Each suit was equipped with shoulder-mounted missile launchers, plasma cannons built into the arms, and enough ammunition to fight for days without resupply. The Marines had trained for years in zero-gravity combat, learning to use asteroids and moon surfaces as cover while hunting alien soldiers. Engineer Yoon Tae-min made final preparations aboard humanity's newest dreadnought, watching as the ship's experimental weapons came online. The vessel looked old and battered compared to the sleek alien warships, but appearances were designed to be deceiving. Beneath the rough exterior were weapon systems that could bend the laws of physics in ways that would make alien scientists weep with terror. The main guns of the human dreadnought did not fire bullets or energy beams. Instead, they launched concentrated gravity wells that could crush enemy ships like tin cans or tear them apart at the atomic level. The weapons had been built using technology reverse engineered from captured alien equipment, but improved with human creativity and determination. Major Kim The-jin sat in the cockpit of her fighter, preparing to lead a squadron in what looked like a suicidal attack against alien capital ships. Her craft appeared primitive and weak compared to Vorthic fighters, but the aliens had no idea what they were really facing. The human pilots were not just better trained than their enemies, they were enhanced with cybernetic implants that allowed them to survive forces that would kill normal people. The fighter pilots could pull maneuvers that should have been physically impossible, turning their small ships into deadly dancing angels of destruction. They had practiced for years, learning to use their apparent weakness as a strength, drawing enemy fire while delivering precision strikes against critical targets. The aliens would learn too late that human fighter pilots fought with a combination of skill, technology, and pure insanity. Dr. Shin Jae-ho prepared to activate the second phase of humanity's defense from his command center hidden inside the moon. His theoretical weapons were about to become terrifying reality as reality warping fields began charging throughout the solar system. These devices could create zones where the normal laws of physics simply stopped working properly. Commander Vexstar felt the first hint that something was wrong when his flagship shields began flickering without any apparent cause. His tactical officers reported strange energy readings throughout the fleet, but the readings made no sense according to their understanding of human technology. The aliens had expected crude nuclear weapons and primitive projectile attacks, but they were not prepared for humans who had spent decades studying their enemies. The trap was about to spring shut, and the Vorthic Empire was about to learn why humans had given them a warning. The price of ignoring that warning was going to be paid in blood and broken ships scattered across the cold darkness of space. The battle was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened Earth. The space around Earth looked peaceful that morning, but everything changed when the sky turned dark with alien ships. Commander Kang-ho was drinking his morning coffee on the orbital defense station when the alarm started screaming. The young officer dropped his cup and ran to his station, where hundreds of red dots appeared on his screen like angry stars. The alien fleet was massive beyond anything humans had ever seen before. Each ship was the size of a small city, and there were thousands of them floating in perfect formation just outside Earth's solar system. They called themselves the Vorthic Empire, and their reputation spread fear across 17 star systems that they had already conquered. Admiral Park Hae-jin stood on the bridge of the main command ship, watching the enemy fleet through the big viewing window. She was a tough woman who had spent 30 years preparing for this exact moment. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her face showed no fear, even though she knew how dangerous these aliens were. The Vorthic had never lost a single battle in their long history of conquest. The alien commander was a creature called Vexstar, who looked like a giant lizard walking on two legs. His skin was dark green, with sharp scales that could stop bullets, and his yellow eyes glowed with cruel intelligence. He had destroyed entire planets just to make examples for other species that might think about fighting back. Against his massive fleet, Earth looked like a tiny blue marble that he could crush without any effort. Lieutenant Kim Min-ho worked at the communications desk, translating the alien message that came through their systems. The words made his blood run cold. The Vorthic were giving Earth exactly 1 hour to surrender completely, or they would start bombing every city on the planet until nothing was left alive. The message was cold and matter-of-fact, like they were ordering lunch instead of threatening to kill billions of people. Admiral Park looked at the enemy fleet for a long moment, then walked slowly to the communication console. She picked up the microphone and spoke in a calm, clear voice that carried across space to the alien ships. Her words were simple and direct, without any anger or fear. This is Admiral Park Hae-jin of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission. We strongly advise you to turn around and leave immediately. This is your only warning. When Commander Vexstar heard the human message, he started laughing so hard that his whole body shook. The other alien officers on his bridge joined in the laughter because they thought it was the funniest thing they had ever heard. A single small planet telling the mighty Vorthic Empire to go away was like an ant threatening an elephant. The aliens had studied human technology and decided these creatures were nothing more than clever animals playing with toys. They barely understood the Vorthic had files on human military power that showed primitive rockets and simple laser weapons. They had watched human space battles that looked clumsy and desperate compared to alien precision. Their scientists had concluded that humans were at least 500 years behind Vorthic technology and would be easy to conquer in less than a day. Captain Lee Dong-wook was hiding behind one of Jupiter's moons in a ship so advanced that alien sensors could not detect it at all. He watched the enemy fleet moving toward Earth and felt sorry for them because they had no idea what was really waiting for them. His ship was one of hundreds scattered throughout the solar system, each one invisible and armed with weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Dr. Kim So-young worked deep underground on Mars in a laboratory that did not officially exist. She was making final checks on devices that had taken 20 years to build using alien technology that humans had captured and improved. The brilliant scientist had found a fatal weakness in Vorthic shields that the aliens did not even know existed because no enemy had ever been smart enough to discover it. What the Vorthic did not understand was that humans were excellent at pretending to be weaker than they really were. Every human colony that had been attacked by aliens in the past 50 years had been a learning experience. Human scientists studied every piece of alien wreckage, every captured weapon, every battle recording to understand exactly how their Enemies fought and how to beat them. The warning that Admiral Park had given was not born from desperation or false courage. It was a genuine attempt to save alien lives because humans knew exactly what would happen when an advanced civilization ignored human warnings and threatened their home planet Earth had been preparing for this day longer than the aliens. Realized Sergeant Park Jinwoo was waiting on Europa wearing armor that made him stronger and faster than any normal human should. He and thousands of other Marines were hidden throughout the solar system, ready to turn every moon and asteroid into a fortress if the space battle went wrong. The aliens thought they were attacking one planet, but humans had turned their entire star system into a weapon. The human defense plan was more than just hidden ships and secret weapons. It was based on decades of studying alien psychology and tactics. Humans knew that the Vorthok were proud and aggressive and always underestimated their enemies. Every part of Earth's defense was designed to exploit these weaknesses, drawing the alien fleet deeper into the system where human advantages would be greatest and escape would be impossible. Commander Vexstar ordered his fleet to advance toward Earth, confident that the battle would be over before lunchtime. His ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging and their shields glowing with deadly energy. The alien commander had no idea that he was leading his entire fleet into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. Lieutenant Kim Min-ho watched the alien fleet getting closer to Earth and felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. He had seen the classified reports about human military capabilities, but even he did not know everything that was waiting for the Vorthok. The young officer trusted his commanders, but he wondered if they really understood what they were about to face. The stage was set for a battle that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Vorthok Empire was about to learn why humans gave warnings to their enemies and what happened to those who chose to ignore them. The price for that lesson was going to be higher than anyone could imagine.